You have people within media that really push racial politics, elitist politics, classism, all these different things because and I'll relate this back to, police brutality. That's not a racialized issue. It's not. It was racialized by assholes and idiots that sought to completely derail the conversation, but that's not a racialized issue. It shouldn't be, because everybody gets took through there from police. That is just an issue that we've all, when I talk about we've all, I'm talking about, every race has had somebody disrespected and violated by police. So police reform was just an American issue. It had nothing to do with race. But because we always want to bring it to race, or you have race baiters that will make everything a racialized issue to keep us divided, because everyone wants to feel a part of a group. It's that sense of loyalty to a group, and that's within human nature. Okay, that's just within human nature. So once you start playing on racial identity, then of course people are going to run to their side. They're not going to keep that same energy. Rome King, baiters gon' bait. I'm all for self-defense. I'm team defend yourself, defend your home. Similar with that case, and this ties back into the nuisance streamer. There was a black man, and the only reason I'm bringing up the fact that he was a black man was because, like I said, they always bring it back to race. And so this is why it's going to be to their own detriment. There was a black man, he was at home 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and these white kids tried to kick his door in, and he shot at them. And you had right-wing idiots, and I have to say idiots because this is idiotic. They were like, oh, well, they were just doing a prank, and it was just a prank. You shouldn't have shot at them. Okay, guess what? You're arguing to lose your Second Amendment right. Like what other situation does that, like, that is a perfect example of someone defending their home. You don't know who the hell is trying to kick in your door. Oh, they were just doing, how do you know it was a prank? A lot of other people were having an issue with people breaking into their house. So of course you're on high alert. You have your lawfully owned gun. Somebody is kicking in your door. You have your family in your house. Like, even if you don't have your family in the house, you have you in your house. So, if we're going to sit over here and say that we believe in the Second Amendment right, that we believe in self-defense, but then every single time, somebody who doesn't look like you exercises that right, now we have to tap dance and pretend like we don't understand self-defense or castle doctrine, then it's just like, what are we doing here? Idiots always enter the chat, and it's so stupid and it's annoying, and they're gonna end up arguing for their own rights to be taken away. That's essentially what's going to happen, and it's already happening. Let's be so for real here. Self-defense is one of those things that we should be protecting at all costs, because if we don't have self-defense, guess who takes over? Criminals, because they don't give a good goddamn about law and order. Those of us who want to exercise self-defense, we care about law and order, right? We care about keeping our families safe from violence, from criminals. But once we get rid of that option to take care of yourself, then what do you have to do? You have to rely on police to come and handle the situation. You know how long that could take in some areas? Police are a finite resource. Police can't be everywhere at all times. And if you're sitting over here trying to wait, then guess what? A lot more people will be hurt. There are so many instances where people have been saved because they were able to protect themselves. Nathan, exactly. The war really is on self-defense more than anything. Even if you look at the states where it's damn near impossible to have a legal firearm, they created laws in a way where if you exercise your right and defend yourself, you're the one getting in trouble. You're the one getting arrested, while the person that criminalized you and violated you gets to walk free. It's literally ass backwards. But this is exactly how, elitists want it. They want us destabilized. When we're not stabilized, we're not able to communicate with one another and get on the same accord. Guess what? They can do whatever. They don't want us to reach across the aisle and be human with one another. That's why everything, if you haven't noticed, everything in the media always devolves into, well, this has to do with race and racism. And it's just like, this is a human issue. Just like police brutality is a human issue. I always point to this story because it's a perfect example of the problem and how it has nothing to do with race. You had this young white couple. They were in an apartment building. He was playing video games, got a noise complaint. They shot and murdered him in front of the girlfriend, And while she's crying over his dying body, the police officer tells her to calm down. And this was a white couple. We fall for the bait every single time. Every single time. I try not to be doom and gloom when it comes to things. That's why humor is so important, because if we just sit here and focus on all the that's happening in the world, all the terrible things we got to deal with as people, all the terrible things we could deal with as people, then life would just be so depressing. That's why humor is so important. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna need y'all to go laugh. We all need to laugh. With that being said, to kind of tie back into, do the weave, tie back into the topic of, nuisance streamers. I personally have a huge issue with people in general impeding on everyone's space. I hate that. We already have a problem of that without cameras, cell phone cameras and video and live streaming your foolery. We already have an issue with other people being completely inconsiderate. Majority of society, I do believe, well, if I'm talking about American, USA society, majority of us are civil. Majority of us do understand that personal space is a thing. It's like a handful of people that don't get it, and they cause a nuisance for the rest of us, right? This is already a problem. It was a problem before there were cell phones and streaming and getting paid. All this did was amplify a problem that already existed. And people who, maybe wanted to be nuisances, but were shamed out of being nuisances, now they're being incentivized to be nuisances. Does that make sense? Now people from all over the United States and all over the world get to see this type of behavior, and they see them getting views. They see them getting numbers. And this is another part. They might not even be making that much money off of it. A lot of people don't realize they might see certain numbers. Oh, this got 1 million views. Oh, this got that. And they'll think that these people are absolutely just rolling in money, just super rich. That's not always the case. Popularity does not necessarily mean rich. Okay, you have a lot of people that's popular online, broke as hell in person. So it's just like, popularity doesn't always equate to dollar signs. Even just the premise around it. You have people that are being incentivized to do these things, and it's not even as lucrative as they think it is. For some it is, but not for all. And so they're still going out into the public and behaving this way and filming it for views. These companies are not taking any steps to try to stop it. They're still incentivizing it, even if these people aren't even going to make that much money off of doing it. Julian Rivera, you say, hey Sandra, have you ever had a police encounter? I think most people have had police encounters by the time they're my age. Let's be so real here. But I'll tell you a story. This is on the lower end. So I remember I was driving home and I was doing the limit. Okay, I was driving the limit. And this cop got right behind me and was tailing me and turned his lights on. I thought I was getting pulled over. So I pull over to the side of the street and he zooms past me and then turns his lights off. He was mad because I was driving the speed limit. This was up in Illinois. Even though I'm a law-abiding citizen, I don't do anything, but I do have a fear of police. I'm not gonna lie. When I see them on the road, when I see them walking around, my heart drops into my stomach. And for some reason, I can't get a hold of that. But even though I don't do anything, I'm not out here breaking laws. I'm a very law-abiding citizen. I told you guys, me and Justin, we went to the grocery store and I thought we didn't pay for the milk. I went back in, I sent Justin back in and we paid for the milk even though we walked out. I'm a law-abiding citizen to my own detriment. But even still, when I see police, my heart drops into my stomach, especially when I'm driving. I get very scared. I get very nervous and very anxious. It shouldn't be that way, right? That dynamic between civilian and police should not be that way. You should feel safer when there's a cop around, right? Wouldn't that be how you feel? And I'm not going to say that that's how I feel in all situations. I used to go to Chicago from time to time, and I would go to the hood, okay? I would go to the hood of Chicago. And if I went to a gas station and there was a police right there, I did feel a little bit safer. I'm not going to lie. So it's not every single situation, but in a general sense, in most situations, because I'm not mostly in the hood. So when I do see police officers, my heart drops into my stomach. I get nervous. I feel like I'm being watched, or, I feel like if I do the slightest jerk of the wheel because I need to scratch my shoulder, I'm going to get pulled up. And not only only that, even when we talk about police and things like that, even they're incentivized for bullshit. Like, they're incentivized to pull people over for no reason because the state needs money or the county needs money. It's crazy. Julian, I'm pro get your gun. Okay, I'm pro get your gun. Legally. Okay, legally that is. Get your legal firearms. Leah says it's kind of sad how some people, including you and I, are scared of the police. We should feel protected and safe. Exactly. That's not how it feels, right? Feels like micromanaging. It feels like Big Brother. It doesn't always feel like protection, which is sad. It should feel like protection. Even if we look at like dirty cops, like there's a whole term for police officers who behave badly. But then you have black and white thinkers where they just can't fathom that police would ever do anything bad. And so that's another aspect of why we can't get police reform, not real police reform, because people are stupid. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how else to say this. People are literally dumb. And it's annoying, to be honest. It's quite annoying.